I did a video on forestry management survival retreats, and this is doing a little work on somebody's property. It's a 100-year-old place. So this tree, I'm guessing, is over 100 years old, but it's huge, and we can see even from the swing mount here how even the swing mount's been there for a pretty long time. But it's been well managed over the years, well cared for. You can see where the nubs are, where some of the lower branches have been cut over the years. This is hollowed out. And the tree now covers a huge area. I mean, it's almost like being indoors under here. And if you can manage a forest at this level, we're not just talking about timber wealth here, which is plenty. Okay, this thing's got a huge trunk, easily 7 feet down here toward the bottom. And you can see that 7-foot section stays toward the top. Now, personally, I would say it's about time for some of these inner branches to go. And that's where this thing just turned into a column. And you could support some pretty heavy stuff, especially at that crotch joint right there. As far as, putting in some kind of larger tree house or something like that, you could really support something on that. But this shows, when you're looking at retreat properties or something like that, regardless of the buildings, regardless of the real estate, if you put some energy into the forestry management and landscape type situation, and we're not talking about totally manicured landscape, but reasonably decent forestry management, in the long term, this is something you can end up with. And with a forest of these trees, now this property here only has one really grand one like this, but there's a couple others that have been pretty well taken care of. Then the place is a heck of a lot more pleasant to be in, even though the actual dwelling size might be relatively small. And that's because it increases the amount of usable area at the home by having good usable outdoor spaces. And if we look at the ground cover situation here, this moss as compared to regular lawn, just throwing some bark dust down here means that you've got a lot of good usable space on the property. And the cool thing is you don't necessarily get taxed on that, okay? If you still have small houses, like let's say somebody put a little micro dwelling in this little opening here, everything's fine. It doesn't count as a large full-on residence for tax purposes, yet the usable part of the home starts to include all this reasonably well manicured forest area, and you can have a survival retreat situation with small dwellings. It doesn't look like a bunch of shanties, it doesn't look like a bunch of shacks. But the trick is the tree trimming and forestry management on this, so that you can get large open areas underneath the trees that give you the function of more covered space. And so in heavy rains, it's not as heavy under the tree. Heavy snow, it's not as heavy under the tree. And then, of course, harsh sunlight type stuff, it's going to be a little bit weather dependent. This is in Oregon. But that's an example of how good forestry management gives you good, more usable home space in a place that's mostly country, mostly wooded.